everybody, and welcome to Formula Facts. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jack Like, and I'm joined here with
Destinee Day.
Okay, Destinee, we're going to go through it. We're going to start with what happened in Spain. I mean, Spain was a pretty good race, and then at the very end, it got very crazy. So let's go through it.
Yeah, crazy amount of stops, compared to Monaco, which was you had to have 2 stops, and then you go to Spain. I feel like it's also an aggressive amount of stops. The last stop obviously killed Max's race strategy, and that's going to be the biggest news of the entire race is what happened with Max and George.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw with Max. I think he went back in and put on hard tires when everybody else put on used mediums or used softs, and they just had such better grip. And then Leclerc ended up passing Max, and he wasn't very happy about that. And then there was the whole situation with George. But overall, I think before that, it was a relatively kind of a not so interesting kind of race, right?
Yeah, it was fine.
It was a race.
It was fine.
We saw another pole position from Oscar Piastri and a double pole, right? And then in the 2 spot where there was Lando Norris, Max Verstappen was in the 3. And then if you look at the way it finished, right? He finished with Oscar finishing first and Lando finishing second. Great race there, though.
Max was on track. Like, if he had a slightly better stop strategy, if he wouldn't have taken that last stop, he could have won it. I believe that he could. He could have rode those tires all the way to the end. I am a firm believer in that. But then worst case scenario, he probably would have ended up second. But, he did that whole thing with George, and Leclerc got through, and, it just didn't work out in the end. And we saw a replay of the Max and George feud. So, oh well.
Yeah, I guess we can go right into that. I think before that whole situation, Max had some pretty good moves on the McLarens. But yeah, let's go into what happened with George. So we saw that, right, George coming back behind him. George was about to pass him. And then I think we saw that it was obviously Max's corner, but Red Bull, being as dumb as they are, says to Max that he should give the position back to George. And then Max, being the competitor that he is, not being very happy about that and not wanting to do it, what happens? He doesn't make the turn correctly and goes right into the side of George Russell.
Yeah, we're pretty big Max fans over here, and that was just kind of sad to watch. Not super supportive of the incident.
Yeah, like I said, I'll always back Max, but that you're right. That was just, and like I was saying to you before when we were talking about it, it's just Max doesn't really make mistakes a lot. That's a minor mistake that another driver would make, but Max Verstappen's not going to make that mistake. So I don't know if we can use that excuse. I think we'll just have to accept that Max did it on purpose, and he's a competitor. I mean, we know that. I mean, these guys are all fierce competitors, but it's just that you can't do that. And I think that Max realized that he made a mistake there. But, then you have George Russell after the race, and I was telling you before, complaining all about, like, oh, I'm worried about what the kids are going to see and how they're going to grow up watching this. Meanwhile, like, in Monaco, there was George cutting corners, saying he'll take the penalties and stuff. He doesn't care, So, stupid George Russell's back at it again, causing some more drama with Max. But, yeah, it was just a disappointing thing to watch, I think.
Yeah. Other F1 news that happened during the Barcelona weekend was, and I feel like there's a massive conspiracy theory happening right now. Lance Stroll qualifying really well and then leaving because of his hand injury. I feel like, and it was too soon to put in it was too late for them to put in their reserve driver. So Aston Martin just ran Fernando Alonso. But if you listen to the interwebs, everyone's saying that this is an easy way for Lance Stroll to go out. They can smoke screen it under the guise of an injury that's not healing and causing problems, and they can easily replace Lance Stroll, probably give him a position in Aston Martin because his dad owns it, and go from there. But
yeah,
I think It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I texted you after it happened. I said, like, what happens now? Like, who's the reserve driver? I don't even know who it is. But then I think we realized, right, that none of them have any practice laps, so they couldn't even go in if they wanted to, which is just a mess from there. But it's crazy. Stroll, we always think it like I feel like I always kind of think of him as a rookie, but he's been racing in F1 since 2017. He's been there for a really long time.
Yeah.
Hogging up an F1 seat. And I hate to say it, but if you really just look at the standings for this year, he has scored more points than Fernando Alonso has in a struggling Aston Martin. So if you're Lance Stroll, who, already doesn't look very happy to be there anyway in the first place, like, I don't know. It is interesting, though, how he does have more points than Fernando does. I mean, Fernando is the unluckiest driver in F1, but I don't know. This might be a little segue into Aston Martin letting go.
Mm-hmm. And then suddenly all the Max rumors make sense.
I don't think so. I think that really settled down. I don't think it's happening.
I still think it might.
I really hope not. Might not be the worst thing in the world for Max. He'd have a good driver pairing, and he'd be back reunited with Adrian Newey. In a 2020. Yeah. In a 2026 car that is Aston Martin's really excited about. So might not be the worst in the world for Max fans. I mean, for Red Bull, it'd be the worst thing in the world because there is nothing going on. They're not really talking about 2026 at all, and 2025 is not working out at all. I think we saw last year in June, Sergio Perez got re-signed for his thing, and then since then, now we're in June of 2025, and they've gone through 3 drivers, Perez, Lawson, Yuki, and none of them are cutting it. So, and I've also seen a lot of news about what's going to happen with the Cadillac seats.
I know.
Right?
It's been so interesting.
I think it's down to like 4 I saw. I think it was like Sergio Perez. I saw Valtteri Bottas was in for one of those seats. I think it's going to be really interesting.
I've seen Danny Rick rumors again. I don't know if there's any merit to that, but I've seen them pop up. I think there's a lot behind the Sergio Perez ones and Lawrence Barretto. I think it was yesterday or today. I saw an article that was like, he wants to get back in a seat. Like he is ready. So I think there's a lot of merit to him joining Cadillac.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Cadillac's car is going to be like. I don't know, in 2026. I wonder, like, I assume it's going to be a good car because they've been working on it for a while now, right? But, you
don't think they can work on it. They can't start. They have to start when the rest of the F1 teams start, which is this summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they can design it, but they can't start actually physically building the car until this summer.
Oh, so it will be interesting.
Mm-hmm. There's regulations because Adrian Newey has to wait to put the pieces of the car together. So that happens this summer.
Yeah, I saw this thing. It was like, everybody at Aston Martin is saying that they never see Adrian Newey because he's always like locked away, designing the car and stuff. And it's crazy how he does it. He just still does it all on paper and draws it all out. So it's a really interesting thing how all these cars are so like optimized for the specific job that they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think it'll be interesting. And then I'm sure we'll still see some movement throughout the team. So, who knows who will end up in what seats because there's still a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, and you wonder what's ever going to happen with that, like, second Red Bull seat. You could always say Isaac Hadjar could take it over because Hadjar's doing great in the Racing Bulls, but Yuki was doing pretty good in Racing Bulls too, and then he went into that crazy RB and it didn't work out very well. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see what happens with Red Bull as a team and with their drivers in general.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just been so disappointing to see Yuki struggling in the back in the Red Bull and then to see Liam Lawson doing really well in the RB. It's wild to watch. And honestly, Isaac Hadjar, shout out to him. He's carrying my F1 fantasy team. So, but it's just kind of sad. It's sad to watch.
Yeah. Let's do getting on a little more exciting topic. Canada 2025 coming up, the home race for Lance Stroll.
Oh, yes. It's in Montreal at the Cirque de Villeneuve, which we will do some reels about and some little things because it's important. Like Gilles Villeneuve was a Canadian driver, won the inaugural Canadian Grand Prix as a Canadian, which is just super cool. He died in a race in Belgium. And then his son, Jacques Villeneuve, was a F1 race car driver for a while. So a lot of history. Obviously, one of the most important Canadian drivers, one of the best Canadian drivers. So they named the track after him after he tragically died. But it also has what's called the Wall of Champions. Do you know about the Wall of Champions?
I do not.
So it's a specific spot in the track that a lot of world champions have just it's a tricky spot and they've crashed out into the spot. So they call it the Wall of Champions. So yeah, it's always interesting to see if anyone's going to go into it.
That's interesting. Well, hopefully we'll get a little more excitement, some more crashes, some more things happening, some more movement.
Well, I mean, it also rains a lot at this track, and it's also the spot where the longest F1 race has ever been held because it was such bad rain and there were so many restarts and stops and situations. The race was over 4 hours long, I believe.
When was the longest race in Canada?
So it was in 2011 and it was 4 hours, 4 minutes and 39 seconds. And Jenson Button ended up winning that race. But yeah, it was 2011.
Oh, good. I think we're just gonna say that for our F1 Academy fans, there will be an F1 Academy race that will be happening in Canada. And I think you just said it's the makeup for the one that they missed in Miami, right? Because they do 2 races every time that they do it. They usually go once a month.
Yep. So they are making up their second race in Montreal.
And
so
I think they're going to do 3 races, I think.
It'll be 3. They'll use the times probably that they were going to use for Miami, run that race, and then do the other 2. So
yeah, it should be good.
It should be good.
Let's look into what happened last year in Canada. Max Verstappen finished P1 with getting 25 points for the Red Bull. Lando Norris finishing in second, excuse me. And then George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, the 2 Mercedes, finished 3-4. So definitely could be an exciting race. We did see Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso finish 6 and 7 in the Aston Martin. So this is a big race. We'll see how Lance Stroll does. He did get the week off after leaving Spain. Daniel Ricciardo, actually, in the RB, finished P8, and Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, the 2 Alpine drivers last year, finished 9-10. Then Haas, 11-12. So should be pretty interesting. There was a rough race for Alex Albon in the Williams, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, Leclerc in the Ferrari. Neither of them finished. And then neither of the Williams finished either. So should be interesting.
Yeah, a lot of DNFs.
And Sergio Perez didn't finish either, but I thought that was without being said.
No, I mean, honestly, I don't think Lance Stroll is coming back for Canada, even though it is his home race.
I don't think he really cares.
I think he cares. I just don't think he wants to do it anymore. I don't know.
I don't think he really ever want. I mean, maybe I don't know. I think it's always been like a for fun thing for him. Because I have seen some people online who are like, we can't all be mad at Lance Stroll. If we had the opportunity to be that, like, be an F1 driver, we would do it too. But like, he doesn't even look like he wants to be there. Like, he's just always like, oh yeah, we're out there racing and I didn't do good. We'll just go out there and keep racing. But like, I don't even know. Like, that's why people don't like him, is because he's just so hard to watch. I don't know.
Well, Gunther Steiner doesn't believe he wants to be there.
That's the source of all of our F1 information.
Yep, hands down. Well, do you want to do some predictions for Canada?
Sure. Lance Stroll is going to be finishing P1 in Canada. Tough injury. Now, let's get our predictions. You want to go first?
No.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to think about this one for a second. Okay, thought about it. Here we go. I think I am going to. Am I doing my? Let's see. I'm trying to think if I want to be. Oh, George Russell started on pole last year though in Canada, which is interesting, and he did finish in P3. But I just don't like George Russell, so it's hard to. Let's see. Okay.
That's how I feel about Oscar Piastri this year.
Okay, I know. Well, no, but you can't. It's way harder not to put in Oscar than it is to put in George. Okay, I'm gonna put my predictions in. I don't think I'm gonna put a Ferrari in. I don't think I'm gonna put a Williams. I don't think I'm gonna put a Mercedes in. So I think I am going to put Oscar Piastri finishing P1, even though I don't want to put it. I think I'm gonna have to be realistic for once. He has had such a great season. Max Verstappen is going to be finishing P2, I believe, and then Lando Norris is going to be finishing it off in P3. Last year, Norris did have a pretty good race, finishing P2, and Piastri finished P5. But I'm excited to see what Oscar has to show. I do think that Lando might make a mistake, though, like you said, on the tough track. But that's why I didn't put George in, because George is, I think he's addicted to kissing the wall. So we'll see what happens. So just to close it off, I'm going to put Oscar Piastri P1, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull P2, and then Lando Norris in P3.
Yeah, incredibly likely. Okay. I'm going to go with Max Verstappen, number 1.
I like it.
Oscar, number 2. Oh, I'm so torn. I just looked up the weather, and the weather's supposed to be nice, so it's not supposed to rain, which means it's going to be Lando. It's got to be Lando.
I think we're both usually pretty realistic with who we pick, but I think we always do give Max a little more play. We always do.
Oh yeah, I like him better.
Yeah, I know, but our 2 and 3 are always very realistic. It's our 1 that we have to highlight Max.
Yeah. No, I think Max 1, Oscar 2, Lando 3. I was going to put George if it was going to be like rainy weather, because I think one of the McLarens could mess it up, and that George is like really good at like maximizing those opportunities. But it's going to be nice. So
yeah, and well, if I knew it was raining, I'd put Max in P1. Max is insane when it's raining. It's amazing. But I think that's something that will be important to see, and something that I've definitely been questioning is like all these drivers, when they do their practices, like practice 1, 2, and 3, they don't matter for anything, but they're using up all their tires. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, why would they not use the tire that they're not going to use in the race? Because then it gets to race time, they don't have any good tires that they want to use left. We saw that with Max, so I don't know. It should be that always interests me, how they manage their tires and their pit stops and all that.
yeah.
But we did see some good strategies in Spain. So I'm excited to see what we're going to see in Canada. I think it's a 70-lap race.
Yes.
So it should be going. Max finished it last year in 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
And I think it might be on a reasonable time. I'm not sure what time it's scheduled for on June 15th. It's scheduled to be at... I have to look at my American calendar. 2 o'clock. Oh, 2 o'clock. Pretty good. Well, we should have a pretty exciting race in Canada. I'm excited to see what happens. I like to say our predictions are going to end up right, but they never do. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching another episode of Formula Facts. I'm Jack Lake.
Destinee.